think a more effective way of doing it would be stop the perks. If we take away the incentives like free education, free health care, Social Security benefits that you haven't paid for, etc., etc., you take away the incentive for them to come here, they're going to leave on their own. In the meantime, we have ICE, the FBI, the NSA, we have any number of law enforcement organizations at the federal level who should be doing their bloody job and finding these people and taking them home. Period. If my tax dollars are going to get spent on something, I'd rather see it get spent on that than Miss Pelosi's airplane.
Damn right.
The drug war. We need to revisit this, folks. Now, I know some of you are going to disagree with me on this. I've never used drugs. I don't like being around people who use drugs. But the drug war, at this point in time, is an abysmal failure. We're spending billions of dollars on it. Drugs are still a scourge across the land. And it has created a systematic violation of our Fourth Amendment rights. Every one of you knows, for example, if you get pulled over and you've got a wad of cash in your pocket, the police can confiscate that money, they can confiscate your car, and you have to prove that you didn't get that money by selling drugs, so you're considered guilty without even being tried. We have got to revisit this with the attitude that we have. Look, I'm going to say it. We may have to look at legalizing some stuff.
Amen.
We may have to, because what we're doing now is not working, and it's creating more problems than it's solving for us, and the southern border is a prime example.
This is your start. What would you do to help Social Security, or would you make cuts to the program?
Well, that's an issue that's addressed in the new book, Young Guns. Paul Ryan has a plan, I believe it's Plan for America, where he addresses the social programs. And that's all part of this concept where these three gentlemen are trying to lay out some solutions to the problems that we've got because of past mistakes, no doubt about it. But he does have a plan that Eric supports. There are going to need to be major changes in Social Security. We as a nation have about 92% debt compared to our gross domestic product. When you get to about 100, then normally they say that you're doomed. You've got too much interest and your currency is doomed. But if you add our unfunded entitlements, like Social Security, we're supposed to have $2.6 trillion in the Social Security fund, that surplus. There's nothing there. The government has given them treasury bonds and spent that money. So if you add Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, I believe we're up over $800 trillion in unfunded or debt. So those are things that are going to need to be addressed. And again, Eric is coming out publicly and saying that he, working with Paul Ryan and Kevin McCarthy, want to address those programs. But they're going to take a lot of heat. You know, we're here tonight. They're going to need political support to get anything done, because there's others that don't want to address the problem.
Mr. Cantor has not signed on to Ryan's program.
Are we taking comments from the audience?
We're not. Thank you very much. It's all right. Next.
Yeah, I do think the remarks about Paul Ryan's plan, roadmap are irrelevant because Eric Cantor's refusing to support it. And Eric Cantor, you know, he comes out, you know, he's not willing to stand up and defend his record to his constituents, not only here but elsewhere. He hasn't done it anywhere in the 7th District this year, not during this election. You know, he's come out with this pledge to America, which doesn't address education, doesn't address infrastructure spending, doesn't address any of the structural problems that this country is going to have to face in the next 10 and 20 years. And the fact of the matter is that you've got a choice in this election. Rick believes in a smart, limited government and structurally balanced budgets, so that you spend more money when the economy needs stimulus in a time of recession, and you build up a surplus when the economy is growing. Floyd believes in extremely limited government, more so than Rick does. And Eric Cantor, it's hard to say because he's not intellectually honest with his constituents. A lot of Republicans in think tanks and elsewhere have been pushing this idea, and in the Club for Growth, they've been pushing this idea that the thing to really do is to break the government, to break the back of the government, and to end entitlement spending, to destroy Social Security and Medicare in the long run by breaking the government and having the government run out of money. And what they wanted to do was to spend the government into the ground during George W. Bush's administration, and they'll continue to do that again if they get power again. If you have a Republican legislature and a Republican president, you have the Republicans controlling the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and having a majority of the Supreme Court until 2006. This was very recent, and their leadership has failed. Their leadership has failed.
United States Constitution. I always keep this with me because you never know when you might need to refer to it. Now, I've looked at this a few times in my lifetime, and I can't find anything in here that says the government should be taking care of me in my old age. Now, having said that, many of you in here, like me, have paid into Social Security all your life, and you have a right to expect a return on that investment. They took your money with the promise that at some point in life you were going to get some of it back, and you should. Now, having said that, we need to find a way to see to it that those people deserving of it get it back. Now, I'm 53 years old. I'm willing to say right now, today, I will forego my Social Security benefits if I'm allowed to keep my money that I earn and invest it where I want to invest it. You can keep what you've had of mine up to this point. We need to begin a weaning off process. We need to get away from this concept of Social Security and any other government's program that proposes to take care of us because we're just too dumb to do it ourselves. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not too dumb to do it myself. I can take care of it just fine. Just let me keep the money I work for and I'll deal with it. So, two things I want you to remember when you go away from here. One, those who have earned it should receive it. And in the process, we need to start weaning off people off the idea that the government is your nanny, and subsequent generations coming forward should be allowed to opt out of. If we can't abolish it altogether, at least provide for a system where they can opt out of it if they choose to.
Do you have any more questions about Social Security and Medicare? Because I think if the other two are willing, it might make sense to group questions by topic and to continue the conversation.
I don't know what the next questions are. Have no earthly idea.
Sure.
If I get a duplicate, I'll just put it aside.
No, I'm saying it would be worthwhile to continue to discuss it. But
We'll see. Get me started on this one. Will you vote to extend all the Republican tax cuts?
All of the Bush tax cuts which were enacted in 2001, for those earning less than $250,000, Rick believes in a permanent extension of those tax cuts. He has not made up his mind about a permanent extension of the tax cuts for those earning more than $250,000 a year. He has in the past stated that he opposes those extensions. I have no reason to believe that he would not, in Congress, continue to oppose those extensions. He has had serious conversations with business owners and others about the ramifications of that and wants to be careful about his actions, but right now his position is that he opposes the extension of the Bush tax cuts for those earning over $250,000 a year. He supports the extension of the Bush tax cuts for those earning less than $250,000 a year. And Rick believes that, it's a complicated thing, raising taxes on anybody. We don't want to do it, but you need to be very careful in terms of the decisions you're making in a difficult economy. However, There are better stimulative measures than tax cuts for the extremely wealthy. I know that not everybody earning $250,000 is extremely wealthy, but most of those tax cuts are going to, the majority of the spending is going to tax cuts